everybody, and welcome along to a brand new video where today I'm continuing my classic Doctor Who marathon, pushing it all the way through the second Doctor Who at the moment. Last week we got the first of the recovered episodes from 2013 with Enemy of the World, and this week we've got the second absolute classic that got recovered, The Web of Fear. So yes, this is another 1968 story following straight on from the Enemy of the World. The other story recovered from Nigeria back in 2013 by Philip Morris and then released around the time of the 50th anniversary of Doctor Who. Having been all but episode 1 had been missing for since it had aired, and then suddenly they originally found all 6 episodes and lost an episode on transit, episode number 3. But apart from that, we've got pretty much the full The Web of Fear. And what a story it is. So yes, this sees the second appearance of the Yeti and the Great Intelligence after we met them in Tibet in the Abominable Snowmen. We have Professor Travers returning as well, who was fully involved in that story as kind of investigating the Yeti and the idea of the Abominable Snowman. And now he's kind of been tinkering with sort of the Yeti and the control spheres and everything like that and just trying to learn. This episode, of course, is set in the London Underground back in the late 1960s, which is, I always find a very interesting insight into sort of what it all sort of looked like and how the tube map was back then and just stuff like that. I think it's just quite a kind of interesting place to set it, and then also gives a really kind of, I think, sort of claustrophobic and creepy sort of feel to the programme throughout the whole story, because pretty much apart from the main action scene in episode 4, nearly the whole story is kind of set underground in both the HQ and mostly in all the tube tunnels, and so it's always very darkly lit. You're in these dark tube tunnels, and it sort of just has a really creepy feel to it as suddenly a Yeti bombs out of the darkness into the light and you get a sting from the music and everything. It properly just kind of has such a great creepy vibe to it, I think, which works so effectively in this story. This is a story that I found really kind of zipped along when I was watching it. It didn't feel, some episodes, I always say, a lot of classic Doctor Who stories do seem to drag quite a bit, and the sign of a good one is that it doesn't drag, and I found this was the case with The Web of Fear. Of course, to some degree it becomes a little bit more difficult when you get to episode 3 because it's only a reconstruction, albeit a very, very good one, unlike when we got to the Underwater Menace and I absolutely slated the reconstruction episodes 1 and 4 that they'd attempted to do because they were pathetic. Whereas in The Web of Fear, it actually felt reasonably coherent, reasonably able to engage you. It was clearly a lot of effort had gone into this reconstruction to kind of keep the story flowing through this 3rd episode and into the rest of the surviving episodes. So I thought that kind of helped to keep me engaged and keep me interested. Of course, this story is also the first ever story for the Lethbridge Stewart character. Of course, at this time, Colonel Lethbridge Stewart, but soon to become Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart in the future. And it's such a shame that his first appearance in episode 3, the missing episode, is when we first get to see him, but it's still really nice to see what becomes the Brigadier, such a well-loved character, and seeing him right at the sort of very beginning of his kind of character development and as a character in this story is just a kind of, well, he always is a bit of a military colonel, as it were, just kind of leading the way, sort of pulling on the army. He still kind of really feels like the Brigadier straight away. He's very much got that manner and already seems to have a rapport with the Doctor, even though it's only these sort of the second half of one story and they never met before. They just seem to click, and so it's no surprise to me really on the basis of this performance that he then obviously comes back many a time in the future. Of course, this is an interesting story because it's the second story of the Great Intelligence after they were seemingly defeated by the Doctor back in the Abominable Snowmen, and the Intelligence now is not really wanting to get revenge on the Doctor. He's just wanting to take the Doctor's mind and absorb it all and become even more powerful and everything like that, and that's what all of this is about really, is taking sort of, well, initially capturing the Doctor and bringing him to Earth, and then trying to get him into what was his mind transference machine, or wherever you wanted to call it, that the Doctor was going to end up at the end of the story. Of course, there's lots of sort of nice moments with the Doctor trying to sort of work out how to take control of a Yeti and then sort of wandering it around, and then the kind of quite funny and slightly bizarre ending that it's sort of the Doctor didn't get his way, although he sort of defeated the Great Intelligence rather than destroying him, absorbing all, I don't quite know how it worked, but absorbing the Intelligence or just destroying him. He was able to escape into space again, and obviously then returns in the new series in the Snowmen in Series 7. And so yeah, that was just kind of interesting to see the Doctor, although he defeated the Great Intelligence, he was kind of frustrated, he was rather angry at Jamie and everybody, at Evans, the really annoying Welshman driver dude. and who just is such a bizarre character throughout this story. He's really just a bit, I mean, he's clearly meant to be played for laughs to some degree. He's quite a kind of pathetic soldier who's not really meant to be a soldier and is just trying to sort of fight for his own life, and has a few funny moments, but it's just, yeah, it's just a little bit weird, I guess, at times, I find, with Evans. But yeah, it's still, yeah, as I say, creates for a great ending with the Doctor kind of just, yeah, a bit frustrated with everybody for the way it's happened. I think this story is actually kind of helped by the fact that you have Professor Travers in this, which means that you don't spend the first half of the series, the story, with all these people suspecting the Doctor and Jamie and whoever to be sort of baddies and involved with the Yetis and whatever. And like, although they're still a little bit suspect, it only really takes sort of most of episode 1 for them to get to that point, which is quite nice. It just means that the story doesn't just become a, and they're stuck in some prison and having to explain themselves, blah, 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 blah. It just kind of means we can get to the good stuff a bit quicker, I think, which is really, really effective. And one of my favourite scenes has got to be the scene in episode 4 where you have the Colonel Esper Stewart and all his soldiers up on the ground, up in London, fighting off all the Yeti through lobbing grenades at them, bombs at them, bazookas, guns, the whole shebang. It's a proper, absolutely brilliant action scene. It's actually one of my favourite sort of action scenes that I've seen so far in Doctor Who. When thinking about it from an Unearthly Child up to this point, this feels like one of the best ones so far. To a degree, it's a template for a lot of the stuff we see in the Pertwee years, the Invasion as well, but mainly the sort of unit stuff. This feels like the almost initial, just having a thought about a more army sort of based Doctor Who, and just having that element a bit more in the series. And it certainly works with this, what obviously has had a lot of choreography, a lot of budget and time and effort put into this scene, because it's just fantastic between the two of them when you see so many explosions, so much gunfire, and it's just absolute chaos, and every single one of those soldiers gets killed except for Colonel Esper Stewart. So it's quite a kind of brutal scene, but I think also such an effective and fantastic one with the setting. We finally feel a bit unleashed, I think, almost, having been trapped down in these tunnels for 3.5 episodes, to finally just have a few minutes out on the surface, but fighting off Yeti with the music that's more of a Cyberman theme, really, the Space Adventures Part 2, I think it's called, which is kind of generic sort of music that we used back in Doctor Who in that day, but was kind of also quite heavily associated with the Cybermen. So in some ways it's a bit weird to hear it underneath. There's sort of the Yetis as well as they attack, but it's still all overall creates such a fantastic scene, I think. And so yes, it's one of those stories that I think is quite universally popular, really. As I say, it's a shame that episode 3's gone missing. I mean, certainly Philip Morris sounds optimistic that he'll be able to get it back from wherever it's been lost to a private collector or something along those lines, who's managed to nab it on the way back. I don't really know, but hopefully that will come back in the future and we can have a more complete one. That's presumably why they're holding off on doing a proper DVD release of this, because of course the DVD of The Web of Fear is a very vanilla release. There's not even an audio commentary, there's nothing, there's no special features. So they're probably, yeah, just hoping that he can eventually recover episode 3, then they'll do the proper van with the documentaries and everything like that on it, and a proper, more full release like The Enemy of the World got. So yeah, it's a little bit of a shame there's not really any documentaries about the making of the programme so much, when it is such a kind of interesting programme to look at. I find it fascinating how sort of they've recreated the London Underground tube stations, because although they look very fantastic and authentic, they're not the real ones. They had to build sets of those. They're never going to get a chance to actually film down in London Underground. So, and then obviously it's a little bit of redressing where it's clearly the same tube platform every single time, no matter what station they're at. They just put new signs up to say it's a different one. So there's a bit of work in that involved, but it does, the set design does feel fantastic throughout. I think those tunnels are just so eerie, and sort of suddenly Yetis coming out from the darkness, as I say, is just so brilliant throughout this story. So I think it all just really works, really clicks, really gives you the feel that you want right from the very beginning, when we've got this mysterious Yeti. The Yeti are back, what's going on, and everything, and then it just kind of continues throughout this story, and then Professor Travers getting involved in the Yetis and the Great Intelligence, and it all just kind of adds more elements into it. Seeing the Colonel Esper Stewart for the first time as well is exciting, and yeah, it just creates a great story, I think. So yes, it's one of those stories that I think deserves its really high rating. I did really enjoy it. I don't know whether it's one of my absolute favourites. I think it's a bit, I think it's only the second time I've ever watched it, so it's still a bit new in some regards to me, and so I'm not quite sure, but I did enjoy it. It's always interesting to see the Yeti, the Great Intelligence. I say London Underground's fantastic as well. There's some good action scenes, some nice creepy scenes. It's got a great sort of vibe to the story as well. So there's a lot of elements there to create a really, really good story. So I do really enjoy it. But what about you guys? What do you think of The Web of Fear? Did you watch it before it was recovered, and then have watched it again and be able to reevaluate it as a story now, and enjoyed it more, enjoyed it less? I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about the Web of Fear. But other than that, that's just about it from this video, guys. I'll be back again very soon with another video, I'm sure. Do you remember to like this one, subscribe if you're new here, and I'll be back again soon. I don't think I'm going to be reviewing Fury from the Deep, simply because there is not a single episode existing, so it's a bit of a harder one to kind of really engage with in the same way and record a review of. But I will be back for The Wheel in Space, and then a lot of Season 6, because I think pretty much every story exists in Season 6, so certainly most of those stories, ones like The Invasion, Seas of Death, the War Games, they'll all be coming up to look forward to in the future. So I hope you guys are looking forward to those videos, but other than that, I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Goodbye!